Okay, here's the next installment of the video lecture on sensation and perception for my introduction to psychology high school students. We were talking about incorrect perceptions, and we're going to pick up with 4 specific types. You're going to want to write these down. There are 4 specific types of incorrect perceptions that I want to talk to you about. The first 2, hallucinations and delusions. We'll take these together. We'll start with hallucination, and you want to write this down in your notes. Hallucinations, by definition, are internally generated, incorrect perceptions. Again, internally generated, incorrect perceptions based on sensory information. Okay, that's hallucinations, based on sensory information. So they come internally, means they come from inside the person. And they are incorrect perceptions because what the person is perceiving is not real. And they're based on sensory experiences. People who are seeing things that aren't real, hear voices that aren't real. They may feel things that aren't real. A lot of schizophrenics, for example, will hear voices instructing them. We call these command hallucinations. Instructing them to do things, often harmful things to themselves or other people. Sometimes people will have visual hallucinations. You could be not mentally ill, but you could be maybe under the influence of drugs and be hallucinating visually because of the drugs in your body. I had a friend who literally perceived that trees were melting in the road while he was driving, to the point where he stopped his car and got out and ran into the woods because he thought he couldn't drive through the trees that were melting on the road. Now, they obviously were not melting. There were no trees melting anywhere near the road, but he was hallucinating. His experience, though, was very real to him. Now, delusions. We'll go to the next one here on the lineup. Delusions, by definition, are also internally generated, incorrect perceptions. So write that down. Again, delusions are internally generated, incorrect perceptions. And here's the second part of your definition for delusion. Delusions are fixed and false beliefs. They are fixed and false beliefs. Someone who is delusional may or may not be seeing things or hearing voices. They don't necessarily hallucinate. Someone who is delusional, they are believing something that is not true. Now, I'm not talking about the person who really thinks he's cool, but really he's not. That's not a delusion. That's just something a little different. Delusions are more serious than that. We have an inmate I deal with at Mount Olive. He believes truly and wholly that he is the President of the United States. He goes to our law library and issues himself presidential pardons, thinking that he's going to be able to leave the prison, which he cannot, obviously. So that's a delusion. He really believes it. Now, I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. We'll talk about hallucinations a little bit. The story that I just told, not yesterday, but just now, about my friend who was driving his car, and he literally stopped it in the middle of the road because he perceived that the trees were melting over the road and he couldn't drive through them. Now, he was not schizophrenic. He was under the influence of drugs. I didn't know it at the time, obviously. That was a pretty scary situation there. So a little bit more about hallucinations. You might want to jot down 5 or 6 of these, because I'll probably ask you on your exam to list 5 or 6 different causes of hallucinations. You don't have to know all of these, but jot a few of these down. You could even use your phone and pick this image if you want, for all I care. But different things can cause hallucinations. Psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, depression, drug intoxication, severe grief, high fever can cause hallucinating. Eye disorders like cataracts or glaucoma can create hallucinations. Dehydration, so stroke, brain tumors. So it's not just mental illness or schizophrenia that can cause hallucinations. Different types of hallucinations. You have visual hallucinations, seeing things that aren't real. You have tactile hallucinations. We had an inmate at Mount Olive years ago who thought he could feel spiders crawling through his skin, and he would literally dig at his arms to get the spiders out. Had another inmate who was visually hallucinating spiders. He would see thousands of them crawling through the walls of his cell at the prison, and he really thought they were like going to come and kill him. Can you imagine if you really experienced that, if you really saw that? You might freak out. Auditory hallucinations, hearing things, hearing voices that are not true. I had a client, an inmate, who was also a client at Mount Olive at the prison, who could hear neighborhood dogs talking to him, and they were instructing him to kill people. And he believed that God was communicating to him through these dogs. Sounds very strange, and it is, but he really was hearing this and would believe it. Now, to delusions, again, internally generated incorrect perception. What causes delusions, it's not really clear. Genetic, neurological, biochemical factors probably play into this. Some research suggests that delusions are caused by imbalance with chemicals in the brain, imbalance in neurotransmitters. Other factors, social isolation. People who are isolated, like in prisons, for example, research suggests that isolation can cause or contribute to hallucinations and delusions. Widowhood, drug abuse, low socioeconomic status, and stress have all been linked to delusions. I'm going to go ahead and call that the end. My battery is dying at the moment in my camera. So let's call that the end of this part. Thank you.